Back home on a Friday night from Lowell Park and faced against one of their division foes for the first time all Cast 99. My name is Matt Rigby. This first segment of the pregame show will segue right into a brief video portion of Kettle Talk before Will Greer will join us on the pregame show with some starting pitching numbers as well as starting lineups in advance of tonight's first pitch. First pitch is scheduled for about 20 minutes from now, and that'll give us some time to lay the framework for tonight's first meeting against the Gatemen. The Gatemen are the last team of the other 9 in the Cape League that the Kettleers have yet to face, and Wareham comes into tonight's game just 6-9 on the season so far. That's last place in the Cape League's Western Division, and thanks to last night's makeup games all across the Cape League, every team in the entire league has finally now played the same amount of games. That leaves Wareham 3 games behind the first place Bourne Braves, who are 9-6 thanks to sweeping a doubleheader over YD at Doran Park yesterday. And Cotuit at 8-7 is 1 game behind the Bourne Braves and 2 games clear of Wareham, which might be a little bit of, or might be of a little bit greater importance given that that 5th place spot is the only one in the Cape League's Western Division that would not qualify for the playoffs. We're still a little bit early to call it a pennant race or anything. It's just game number 16 of the season here tonight from Lowell Park. But we mentioned it a couple nights ago, and we got into it just a bit last night in the broadcast from Hyannis. The Kettleers are playing game 2 of a 7-game stretch against interdivision foes tonight. They won the first one in the first of 6 Barnstable Patriot Cup meetings last night from McKeon Park, and it'll be incumbent upon the Kettleers to keep it rolling tonight against a struggling Wareham team. Wareham suffered a loss a couple nights ago, the last time they were in action. The Gatemen were off yesterday, and it was really a crushing loss for Wareham. Wareham gave up 1 run in the 8th to Falmouth. That was at Spillane Field. Then 2 in the 9th to tie the game up. It went to extra innings, and Falmouth ultimately scored 4 in the 11th to defeat the Gatemen by 4 runs. Wareham so far this year has really struggled on the road as well. They are just 2-6 on the road, and the offense has really been one of the problems for the Gatemen on the road. In those 6 losses, they are averaging just 1.5 runs per game. They've played 4 straight home games. They split those 4, and now they're back on the road tonight at Lowell Park for the first time this season. Cotuit 3-1 now against the Cape League's Western Division, furthering that theme about the Kettleers needing to play well inside of the division. Last night was just the 4th game of the season for Cotuit inside the Western Division, and they took care of Hyannis rather handily. It was the best night that the Kettleers have had at the plate all season long so far. Cotuit defeats Hyannis 12-6. They hang up crooked numbers to the Kettleers in 4 separate innings. They draw 9 walks, and they see 189 pitches from the Harbor Hawks staff in a game that took 3 hours and 26 minutes. 8 of 9 Kettleers in the lineup last night picked up a base hit. 8 of 9 Kettleers in the lineup last night picked up a free pass. The only person who didn't pick up a base hit, Griffin Conine, and he is not in the lineup tonight because the best hitter, at least statistically, for the Kettleers coming into tonight's game is in Omaha, getting set for the College Home Run Derby that will take place tomorrow night at TD Ameritrade Park. The good news for the Kettleers, they haven't really needed Griffin Conine much over the last week or so when he's been scuffling. Cotuit has won 2 out of their last 3. They've scored 12 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, and the top half of the lineup that has been good around Griffin Conine, in particular John Cresto and Zach Cohn, and Grayson Genista has continued to produce, and they've gotten production from somebody else in the lineup. His name is Brett Kinnaman, as he's been on fire over the last week. Kinnaman raised his average 49 whole points last night, hit his first home run of the year and his 3rd double of the season. More on just how hot Kinnaman's been as the night goes along. But he's in the 3-hole, or in the 2-hole rather, again tonight, looking to pick up that slack left by Conine and keep the Kettleers hot at the plate. Cotuit had 13 hits last night, and they will look to stymie a Wareham batting average, or a Wareham batting lineup tonight that has not been very good so far this season. 249 average coming into play tonight for the Gatemen. That's 8th best in the Cape League. 322 on base percentage, second worst. 330 slugging percentage, third worst, and a 652 OPS, which is also third worst. Wareham has pitched it okay. They have the 4th best ERA, the 3rd best WHIP, 6th most strikeouts. They have the fewest walks of any staff in the Cape League. And they give up a 260 batting average against, which is 7th worst. Wareham, the only team in the Cape League without any saves. And Wareham, in another obscure statistical tidbit, has just 11 doubles on the season. That's fewest in the Cape League by 8, as they will look to use the spacious dimensions of Lowell Park tonight to maybe split some gaps and get the offense back rolling. Starting pitching matchup tonight, Miller Hogan from St. Louis. The proud Billiken makes the start for Wareham. He's a righty. Noah Davis from UC Santa Barbara. The proud Gaucho makes the start for Cotuit. He's a righty as well. For Davis, it's his 3rd start, and for Miller Hogan, it is his 2nd. We'll step aside, and then the aforementioned pregame video Kettle Talk will roll. Sean Ellertson will man the helm for that one. We will also have starting pitching matchups and starting lineups on the other side of that. If you're tuning in on our Mixlr page, stay tuned. It'll be a brief pause during the video portion of Kettle Talk, and then we will be back on the Cotuit Kettleers pregame show on the Cotuit Kettleers video network.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Lowell Park here in a windy Cotuit, Massachusetts. This is pregame Kettle Talk with your host, as always, Sean Ellertson, joined most of the time by Matt Liberman. And Matt, Cotuit coming off a big bounce-back win last night. Brett Kinnaman and Gian Martellini were the big stories last night. How do you think they did?
Well, I thought that they were nothing short of spectacular. Brett Kinnaman got on base 5 times, the most of any Kettleer last night. Hit his first home run of the season, a 2-run shot over right center field. So a great game for him, and then Martellini as well, picking up a few RBIs early in the game. He had another very solid performance overall.
And you have to figure that Kinnaman and Martellini are going to become key parts of this offense, that they're a true 1 through 9 offense. Now let's switch to the other side of things with the pitching. Adam Scott got his first start last night. How do you think he did on the mound?
I thought the first few innings were really solid, and I thought he started to lose it a little bit towards the end when he was facing the order for the second time, and people really started to see that he didn't have much of a breaking ball going for him last night. Early on, he was commanding his fastball. It was low, it was away, and he was able to get swings and misses. That kind of stopped the second time through the order. I don't think that the stat line shows, though, a correct description of the game, because I think he had a solid performance, and he did what he needed to do to keep them in the game, but his ERA doesn't show that as of last night.
Definitely a solid performance last night for the Kettleers. Now let's go down to Kara Bernard, who's standing fieldside with head coach Mike Roberts.
Thanks, Sean. I'm here today with head coach Mike Roberts. Coach, after losing a rough game the other day at Orleans, we overcame a win yesterday with 12 runs. How do you feel about your team's ability to bounce back like that?
Well, it doesn't surprise me at all. You know, again, as I've said before, we play 44 games. You play them one at a time. You let go of the game before, and you go to the next ball game. So I was really not surprised. They played really great last night.
Looking at the lineup today, Griffin Conine is out as he is at the Home Run Derby. What adjustments did you make, and what would you like to see out of your team as he's missing tonight?
You know, you just have to treat it as if somebody's sick for a day or they have a foot injury. You really can't think about it. You just have to go on. You know, these type interruptions occur. I'm happy for him that he's able to go in the home run contest, and then we just kind of take it from there, and somebody else fills in. You know, it's a team, and that's the reason you have more than 9 players. So we'll just adjust and hopefully play well.
I talked to you yesterday about Adam Scott making his first start in the Summer League. How do you think he did last night?
Oh, I thought he pitched extremely well. You know, the first hitter had 15 pitches, which Mangum from Mississippi State did a great job in the leadoff spot. But outside of having to throw a lot of pitches to him, Adam threw the ball really well and gave us an opportunity to win, and I think set the tone for us. And, of course, we were fortunate to score 4 runs in the top of the first, and that helps you, but Adam did an excellent job.
Looking into this game tonight, we're facing a team that we have not seen before. Does that affect preparation as you go into tonight's game at all?
No, it really doesn't. We had not seen Hyenas before last night's game either. We just take the roster, take the stats, history of some of the players that may have played in the Cape before, or take a look at what they've done at their schools during the spring, and just, again, just attack it in the way that we like to attack it and see what happens.
All right, well, thank you and good luck tonight.
All right, you're welcome.
Thanks, Karen. Coach said some really impressive things about Adam Scott. His first outing, thought he pitched very, very well. Now let's move to today's starter, Noah Davis. What are you expecting out of him today?
I'm expecting to see most of what we've seen all season long, and that's he's all right for a little bit, and then he kind of gets himself into a jam. I mean, I know that's what a lot of Cotuit pitchers have done this season, but Davis hasn't shown me anything special this season. He's shown that he can get the ball up around 93, 94 if he really has to. He doesn't have much of a breaking ball. First game, barely got out of the first inning, only made it to the second. Last game, made it to the 5th inning. I would expect about the same today, maybe the 4th or 5th inning for Davis, but he hasn't really impressed me so far.
You have to think the innings limit is something that factors into that. Also, his lack of reps, I suppose, is another way to put it. Now to the offensive side of things. Griffin Conine, obviously away at the Home Run Derby. But also Jean Bartolini, who we touched on earlier in the program, is not in the lineup. What adjustments do you think Coach Roberts has made?
Well, there's clearly a lot of differences with the lineup. He has Grayson Genista batting first overall in the leadoff spot where Conine usually is. Genista, who's normally second, and that's now taken by Brett Kinnaman, who has been pretty hot as of late. So just finding those streaky players to sub them in for where he's missing his better players, and just figuring out a different defensive schemes. Obviously, Conine is a great right fielder as well, so it's just finding different pieces and finding the pieces to fit that jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, Miles Lewis and Thomas Dillard will be inserted into the lineup tonight for those 2 missing pieces. Now let's go to Carabinot, who's with Grayson Genista.
Thanks, Sean. Now, I'm here today with Grayson Genista, who is in his 2nd season playing with Cotuit. Can you tell us about some differences between last season and this season?
Got a good group of guys. We all get along with each other. Every year's different, but coach is a little different from last year. It was kind of a hard year for all of us, but it's a new year.
Speaking of some differences, we're seeing you in the leadoff spot today. Does that affect your approach at the plate?
No, I was in the leadoff spot earlier this year, and I was there all through the college season. But with Conine out, got to make some adjustments till he gets back on Sunday, I think, and just gonna have to get through it.
You did suffer a very minor leg injury the other day. How's the leg feeling, and will you be going into today's game 100%?
Yeah, we're good.
Good?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you and good luck today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Grayson Genista has been up and down really all year long, but these last couple games, his bat has really come alive. How important is he to this offense?
Well, I mean, he's crucial. He's probably the best returning player on this team. He has a huge bat, even though he hasn't really shown it much this year. Not a whole lot of power he's displayed so far. He does have it. He has a home run on the season. He played very well at school this year. It's only a matter of time before he really starts to get going. He's gotten his batting average up to around 330 right now. It's sitting at a comfortable 327, and that has just gone up and up and up in the last week. So I would expect a lot more of the same going forward.
Thank you, Matt. This has been Pre-Game Kettle Talk. Cotuit looks to improve off last night's victory against Hyenas with a victory over Wareham today. Thank you for tuning in. First pitch at 5 p.m.
Back at beautiful Lowell Park on this Friday afternoon, 4th of July weekend from Cotuit, Massachusetts, and a beautiful 73-degree afternoon for baseball. Game number 16 upcoming from Cotuit. Will Greer, Matt Rigby alongside you. It's time to go over our starting pitching probables and starting lineups before this one. A lot of fanfare going on the field right now. That's why I'm chuckling a little bit. And ATV just rounded.
Speaking, comes in at 364, 8 for his first 22 for Wareham this year. The 1-1, Dodson sprays it foul towards the left side out of play, and it's 1-2. 481 on base percentage for Dodson so far this summer. It's because in addition to those 8 base hits, he has 5 walks. in 27 plate appearances. Switch hitter from Cal, batting from the left side. The only switch hitter in the lineup tonight for the Gatemen. In a 1-2 hole, the kick and the pitch, and he fouls it off his foot to stay alive. Dotson had a good night in Wareham's loss to Falmouth a couple nights ago. Talked about that loss in the pregame show. Score was 8-4, but the game seemed much closer until the 11th inning. Wareham had a 4-1 lead over the Commodores entering the top of the 8th at Spillane Field. Falmouth put 1 across in the top of the 8th, 2 in the top of the 9th to tie, and then 4 in the top of the 11th to win. Another 1-2 to Dodson. He lifts it to straightaway left center, moving over Genista on his horse. That'll fall and split the outfielders. Genista cuts it off on one hop, gets it back in quickly, but cruising into second base with a 1-out double is Tanner Dodson. Mentioned that Dodson had a good night in that Falmouth game. Just to finish that off, he was 2 for 5 with a triple and 2 RBIs. He's now got another extra base hit in his first at-bat tonight, make him 6 for his last 11, and give Wareham just their 12th double of the season. Mentioned it in pregame, Will. Wareham entered the game tonight with just 11 doubles. That was fewest in the Cape League by 8, which is really a statistical anomaly. And Tanner Dodson looking to do something about it. Gets Wareham a double in their second at-bat of the game. That'll bring up Willie McIver. McIver, a .315 hitter on the year. 21st best average in the Cape League entering play tonight. Takes the first pitch low and away. It skips away from Dillard all the way over the chain link fence that surrounds home plate here at Lowell Park. So it's an automatic advancement to third for Dodson. Wild pitch for Davis. And the Gatemen have the game's potential first run just 90 feet away. Willie McIver really fits the mold of a modern-day baseball player in that he can play anywhere on the diamond. Came to Washington as a catcher,